The Oregon Trail is a 1985 educational strategy video game made by the Minnesota Educational Computing Corporation. My name is Larry McFeely, and I'm going to walk you through this surprisingly enjoyable game I first played on an Apple II computer in grade school with a Speedy Delivery, which basically means we'll speed up slower moments of gameplay. For the purpose of this video, I decided to play the DOS version, which was released in 1990 and had slightly better graphics than the Apple II version. I also decided to add my own cartoon sound effects to this video because the game doesn't really have a lot of sound effects of its own other than beeps and boops and music of the same nature. Just in case you were wondering how an old PC game like this one could have such high-quality audio. Because it doesn't. You start off at the main menu where you can learn about the Oregon Trail, see the top player's scores, change game options, or start your game. When selecting to learn about the trail, we're taken to screens that contain not only historical info about the trail, but also helpful tips about how you should be playing the game. I always thought this stuff was stupid when I was a kid and never paid attention to it. So I missed all the helpful information about how to prep for supplies and crossing rivers. Even more helpful, when you select to look at the list of top players, you're asked if you'd like to see how points are earned, and when you do, it explains how the points are earned for each of your players, the resources you're carrying, and what you'll receive when you arrive at the end for each type of player. Another section I never paid attention to as a kid. When starting the game, you're given the option of what type of player you'd like to choose, which correlates to the difference in points you'll receive at the end of the game. By choosing option 4, you can find out the differences between the options. Basically, choosing a banker is the easiest because you start off with the most amount of money. The more difficult the game is, the larger number of points you'll receive in the end. So for the purpose of this video, we'll choose the banker. Then you're given the chance to name your players. You're allowed a total of 5 players in your wagon. We'll type in Larry, Gary, Jerry, Harry, and Clyde. Then we're asked to choose a month we'll be departing for Oregon. When you ask for advice, you're told to choose a month early to mid-year, so I usually go with April, which is safe. As a banker, you have $1,600 to spend on supplies before leaving, but you don't have to spend it all, so you go to Matt's General Store to make your purchases. The balding Matt smoking a pipe is happy to see you and lets you know that you should purchase a team of oxen, clothing for the summer and winter, food, ammunition, and spare parts for the wagon. Matt tells you that there's 2 oxen in a yoke, and he would recommend at least 3 yoke. Since we're starting off with a lot of money, I like to max things out. I chose 9 yoke, which would be 18 oxen for the trip. Next is food. Matt recommends that you take at least 200 pounds of food per person. We have 5 people in our group, which would make for 1,000 pounds. So we'll take 2,000 pounds, which is the most you can carry anyway. Clothing is next on the list, and Matt tells us to bring 2 sets of clothing per person, so we'll bring 30. Ammunition is available in case you end up needing to hunt for food. Matt sells ammo at $2 per 20 bullets. We'll take 50 boxes, just in case. Finally, we'll need spare parts for the wagon, and these really do come in handy. The most you can carry is 3 of each spare part, so go for broke, banker. We still have a little bit of money left over, which is good because we'll probably want to purchase more food along the way. So here we go. It's April 1st, 1848, and we're leaving Independence, Missouri in search of a better home. Pretty amazing graphics and sound for the time here. We begin our journey, and from Independence, it'll be 102 miles until the next landmark, the Kansas River Crossing. One of our first occurrences is a thief stealing 20 bullets from us in the middle of the night. We move along and make our way to the Kansas River Crossing. Yikes! As we choose to move along, we're told that we need to cross the river to continue and that the river is almost 7 feet deep. There are options when it comes to crossing rivers. By rule of thumb, I always say if it's deeper than 3 to 4 feet, you have to try and caulk the wagon and float it across. So that's what we did here. And there was no trouble getting across. We move along and the next landmark, the Big Blue River, is 82 miles away. Along the way, we get lost on the trail and lose 3 days. Eventually, we make it to the Big Blue River on April 16th when the weather is still cool and our health is still in good shape. Once again, we're presented with our options of crossing the river, and this time, it's only 3.2 feet deep. I chose again to caulk the wagon and float it across, which we have no trouble with. The next landmark is Fort Kearney, which is 118 miles away. At most any point during your travel, You can press the enter button to size up the situation and take a look at how things are going. You can check on your supplies, change your food rations if you're running low, stop and rest, attempt to trade with locals in that area, hunt for food, or just check the map to see how far you've come and the journey that still lies ahead. Back to the trail, and we make our way to Fort Kearney. Our next landmark is pretty far away. It's a 250-mile trip to Chimney Rock. A severe blizzard causes us to lose a day, and another thief steals from us in the middle of the night, and this time takes 3 oxen. Our first injury occurs as Gary has a snake bite. Now that it's the 1st of May and the weather is warmed up, we lose the white snow color all over the screen and finally make it to Chimney Rock. We choose to move along the trail onward to our next destination, Fort Laramie, which is 86 miles away. Gary gets typhoid and then suffers a broken leg before we hit Fort Laramie. Poor Gary. It's May 14th, and our health is looking fair, so we press forward to Independence Rock, which is 190 miles away. Eventually, one of our wagon's wheels breaks. You're always offered the opportunity to fix things first. Now, if you're unable to fix it, then spare parts must be used. So you replace it with one of your spare parts, and almost immediately, your wagon tongue breaks. This, however, we are able to repair as we continue on. Bad water seems to come up quite a bit. Bad water and very little water. Jerry ends up with typhoid next, and then we find some wild fruit, which adds onto your food rations. Then, the unthinkable happens. Gary dies. We say a prayer for Gary and keep moving forward to Independence Rock. It's now June 5th, and health is poor at the moment, but what the hell? We gotta get to Oregon. Our next stop is South Pass, and it's 102 miles away. We experience some inadequate grass for the poor oxen, and then Jerry gets a snake bite. Finally, we hit South Pass. If we take a look at the map, you'll notice that we're just about halfway there. The trail divides from here, so we'll have to make a choice of either heading for Green River Crossing or Fort Bridger. For this game, I chose Fort Bridger, which is 125 miles away. So we're back on the trail, and pretty quickly again, we encounter a wrong trail and lose 4 days out of it. We arrive at Fort Bridger on June 30th when the weather is hot and more than half of our food supply is gone. But those of us left are in good health. So we push through to Soda Springs, which is another 162 miles as we see more inadequate grass, finding some wild fruit, and losing another 3 days from getting lost on the trail. Eventually, a thief comes along and steals 15 sets of clothing. Not cool. When we hit Soda Springs, we've now traveled over 1,200 miles. That's a lot to comprehend as a kid. We check the supplies real quick before we move forward to our next landmark, Fort Hall, which is only 57 miles away. We'll see more inadequate grass and plenty of water issues before we hit Fort Hall on July 23rd, 1848. Next up is the Snake River Crossing, which is 182 miles away with only 550 pounds of food left. Health is poor, but we press on. We'll see more inadequate grass and the death of an oxen before our member Clyde gets a fever. We end up losing the trail and losing a day out of that before we hit the Snake River Crossing on August 10th, 1848. From here, in order to continue on, you have to cross the Snake River, which is 6 feet deep and 1,000 feet across. With all the options available, the easiest when you have all the extra supplies is number 3. Ask for help. Your Shoshone guide offers to help in exchange for 2 sets of clothing, which is an extremely reasonable offer. The wagon makes it across the river just fine. We're back in fair health now as we head to Fort Boise at 113 miles away. We're ready to go, and Jerry has a broken arm. Aw, Jerry. Let's take a look at the map. You can tell that we're getting real close to the end of our journey after already having traveled 1,459 miles. Wow. We end up with a broken wagon axle, and we try to repair it unsuccessfully, so we're forced to replace it with a spare part, which we have on hand. We're also subject to thievery yet again, as a thief steals 39 pounds of food during the night. Poor Jerry ends up with exhaustion right before we reach our destination, Fort Boise. We're down to 139 pounds of food now, so it's time to buy some supplies. First, we'll hit number 9 to buy supplies. We'll hit number 7 to buy food and buy 500 pounds. That leaves us with $125 left over. We're back out and ready to hit the trail with a 160-mile trip to the Blue Mountains. More inadequate grass and a rough trail slow things down, then we lose another couple of days from traveling on the wrong trail. As we move into September now, we see cool weather, very little water, and a loss of 4 days from losing the trail again. We fight through heavy fog and finally make it to the Blue Mountains. Once again, we have to make a decision. Do we head toward Fort Walla Walla or make our way to the Dalles? We choose to make our way toward the Dalles, now only 125 miles away. Should be an easy trip, but then Clyde has dysentery. And one of the oxen is injured before we end up with another broken wagon wheel. We're able to repair the wheel and move along, but then an oxen dies. Well, thank goodness we brought extra. Right before we reach the Dalles, we somehow end up with an impassable trail that costs us 7 days. Unreal. We find some fruit and end up at the Dalles. The trail divides again here with 2 options for moving forward. We can either float down the Columbia River or take the Barlow Toll Road. It was always my favorite as a kid in computer class to float down the river. So let's float down the river. You can use the arrow keys to move left and right as you're floating down the Columbia River, and we have to keep an eye out for the direction signs because we need to dock our raft after the 3rd direction sign. I always loved this part while I was sitting in computer class and the other kids were either struggling with figuring out how to navigate through the trail or stuck playing math games. Here we go, cruising down the river with the left and right arrow keys, trying to avoid the giant boulders in the way. We'll speed this up for a moment. We pass our first arrow sign and continue down the river moving left and right. Again, speeding things up here. Then we see our second arrow marker. And speeding things up here one final time. And finally the 3rd, which means it's time to get ready to pull over. Get over to the side, and when you see the trail, pull in. We made it! Willamette Valley, October 2nd, 1848. Now it's time to check the points. We scored 1,793 points, which is a greenhorn rating. If you notice, we also scored 29 points higher than Fartsy Sandwich. Sweet. Now, if you know this game, then you know there was a lot of ground we didn't cover. Like hunting for food. which is kind of ridiculous, and entirely separate routes that can be taken, which all lead back to Oregon. Well, maybe not all the routes, but for the purpose of this video, that's a pretty straight shot, speedy way through. And there you have it. That's the speedy delivery of the Oregon Trail. These videos mean a lot to me, so if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And of course, you can subscribe if you want to see more. Until next time, we'll see you around the neighborhood.